Ooh, what's going on, YouTube? It's Donnie B all day. So, I needed to make lunch, and I started making it, and I started thinking to myself, wait a minute, somebody might want to know how to make this because it's simple and it's really good. So, what I started doing is boiling some water. And the reason I'm boiling some water is so I could throw some extra wide egg noodles in there. And aside from the egg noodles, I have myself some tuna. And aside from the tuna, I have myself some green peas, some sweet green peas. Outside of that, the only other things I have are going to be salt, pepper. I might do a little bit of breadcrumb on the top when it's all said and done, and a little bit of Funyun. And some mayo. And that's it. That's it. That's all the ingredients you need for this. This is my father's old school tuna noodle casserole, and I'm gonna do it his style. I made one last week that was a little different. It just wasn't as good as his, so I'm going to come as close as I can to making my father's old tuna noodle casserole. And while that's being done, I have a couple of Pop-Tarts that just popped up because blueberry frosted Pop-Tarts are the best. And I found out there's no shelf life on this. I pulled out the box because it's been in my cabinet for a while. And I said, man, I wonder if these are still any good. Guess what? There's no date. So the Pop-Tarts, still good. So let me boil the water. Once the water starts boiling, all I'm going to do is add the noodles. Once the noodles are in there for a little while, then I'll add the peas because the peas don't need to cook for the same amount of time as the noodles. And then we'll go from there. So hold on now, hold on. All right, so we are now at a slow roll boil, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pop these open. Now, I don't have my father's recipe, and he passed right before I went to Afghanistan, so it's been over 10 years. And so I'm only going by the fact that he used to make it all the time, and it was amazing. And I just remember how it tastes. So that's where I'm gauging my recipe from, is just trying to remember what he did. And I remember it being simple, and I remember these are the only ingredients. So there we go. We got a bunch of egg noodles in there. I didn't do any kind of measured amount. I just did almost a full bag. And because noodles tend to go a long way. You think you're only putting in a little bit. We just had this conversation, and all of a sudden you realize, damn, I got too many noodles. So, I'm gonna let these boil up and get that all done. And I just got some good information right behind you guys. We got some kind of like gerbil or hamster or something in the house. I don't even know what it is. And it's escaped a few times. Right now it's escaped. So while that's boiling up a little bit, let me go look for the little critter. All right, we found that damn critter. All right, so now what I'm doing is I just reduced the heat on the boil because I don't need it at such a heavy roll right now. Because I got, it takes 15 minutes for noodles to properly cook. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take some of the water out of these sweet peas. And then dump that whole can right inside with my noodles. Pretty damn simple. So my father, he was actually a really good cook. Funny dude too. My father was a crack up and a little bit mental in a good way, you know what I mean? And he was a tour bus driver for Peter Pan, and he used to he didn't just do like runs, those shuttle runs back and forth to New York and back or whatever. He did a lot of tours, and he was a driver for Paul McCartney. He was a driver for LSU back when Shaq played. And one point he was on the court with Shaq, and they were playing around before the game started. My father was he had these skinny rail legs, and you know what I mean. He was probably 5'11", somewhere in there, but he had the big I drive a bus and get fed prime food all day belly. And so he's on the court with Shaq, and they're shooting around, and then Shaq, my father's standing in the center of the lane. Shaq decides to just come down and put one down. And so my father moves. And Shaq looked at me and said, "Hey, how come you move, Mr. Bill?" And Shaq, my father just looked at me and says, "Are you effing kidding me?" He said, "You'd have killed me." And Shaq patted him on top of his head. He goes, "You're funny, Mr. Bill." But just he had so many really cool stories. And I'm going to tell you one that was a little different. He was doing a run one time where he had this old people group, and he was bringing them to the casino. He was bringing them to Foxwoods. And this was when I had my own company, SEOA, and I had the contract at the bus station, right, at Peter Pan bus station. So we get this call to dispatch that there's a guy on the bus, a pervert. He's got himself out and he's staring at this chick, and he's, doing a little who's your daddy. And so they inform me that they're bringing him in, and he's going to be on the bus when I get there, or when it gets there. I'll be there. So bus pulls into its spot. I'm sitting there waiting for it. I march on to the bus. I go in there and I grab this guy by the collar, take him out of the bus. He's trying to tell me he's on medications and that's why he has to do it and this and that. I gave him the bullshit type story. So just as I'm pulling him out of the bus, my father pulls up with all these 80-year-old blue hairs coming out of the casino. And as he pulls up, I have this guy by the neck up on the wall. And I'm just with a finger in his grill. And so I could hear my father as he opens the door. He's letting people out. He says, "And if you look outside, you'll see my son with a pervert in the air." And all the old ladies come off the bus. They're going, "Oh!" But funny stuff, man. It was just funny stuff. He was a crack up. There's some stories with him that are just ridiculous. But good dude, man. He was a good dude. So let's get this going. So basically, my boil is reaching the end, and after this point, which this point's very simple. After this point, it's still simple. All I have to do is crack open this tuna can and drain the water, right? Once I drain the water out of this tuna can, and I drain the water out of all that stuff, I just put it together. Literally, just mix it together with a little bit of mayo. And I found out that you don't want to go too strong in the mayo because it makes it soupy. The last one I made was a little too heavy in the mayo, I think, and it made it more wet than like casserole. You know what I mean? So that was my trial and error, and I did it different. I used asparagus instead of peas. So this time I'm going to try and keep it as close to his style as possible. A little homage paid to Mr. Bill. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use my fork, and I'm going to break up some of this tuna. Just going to stick my fork in and give it a little spin, and that way it breaks it into little parts and things like that. So you can hear in the background, she's not talking to herself. She's got that little critter with her. If you're hearing somebody talking to themselves back there, you know why. So the only way to know if this is done is to try a noodle. And if the noodle's where you like it, then it's done.
It's like a kangaroo.
And for all my Australian friends, and I have a ton out there, there's a bunch of you guys. I love my Aussies. You may have just heard in the background her compare a gerbil to a kangaroo. No disrespect.
I touched him. He's happy.
Okay, so the noodles are pretty much there. That's done right. The tuna is done. I need something to mix it in. And luckily, I always think ahead, and that's why you never see me going to get stuff late in the game like this. All right, so I've got something to mix it all in. And of course, I remembered to have a strainer ready to go. That's my kind of cooking. My kind of cooking is, oh crap, right when I need to get stuff done. So I'm going to turn off this heat. And I am going to just take the water out. Oh yeah, and that's all I'm doing is just taking the water out. So, once that's done, I'm just going to put it all back in there. Get all my peas back in there. And now it's ready to take the tuna and put it in there. Lost my fork. And I'm just gonna scrape the tuna with the fork. That way it breaks it into little tiny pieces. Rather than just dumping the tuna in, just give it a good scraping. And you'll actually, with the fork, with the tines of the fork, you'll shred the tuna as you get it into your deal here. So that's it. So now I have a nice, finely shredded bunch of tuna, all good in the hood. So that's that. Now what I'm going to do is give it a little bit of mix before I add my salt and pepper. I just want to get some of it in there, nice, combined well. And now I'm just going to throw a little bit of salt. Salt and pepper is to personal taste. You know what I mean? Some people like more, some people like less. So that all comes down to how you want it. It's just a little something extra for flavor, you know? You don't want bland food. So now I'm going to mix that all up. Get the salt and pepper all over the place. It's looking mighty nice. And that is perfect. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on the toaster oven. I lost the word for toaster oven. I didn't know what I was about to call it. I'm going to turn on the thing, and that way I can do a baked top. You don't need to, but that's the way I like to do it. Luckily, I thought ahead about what I needed to put that in. So I need to do a little dishes here because I need to wash this. Hold on, let me wash that. All right, so now the mayo. And I just got to be careful not to go too heavy on the mayo. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a tablespoon. And I'm going to start with maybe 2 tablespoons of mayo. And I'm going to start that mix and I'm going to see how it looks. See if it's under, because I don't want to go over. So I'll go just a little to start and then up it if I need to. Let's see here. It's kind of hard to tell, you know what I mean? Especially if I'm trying to get it the way he used to have it. But it looks pretty good. I think I might go with maybe 1 more tablespoon, and that's it. And that's it. So that's what I did for that almost full bag of noodles. I did pretty much 3 tablespoons of mayo. Remember, this isn't calculated. This is also going to be the taste. Who knows? Maybe you like it a little bit more mayo. All right. So let's continue. Let me put this on pause real quick while I stir this up. Okay, so I'm all mixed up. I'm all mixed up. What I'm going to do is pour into an 8-inch square. I gotta be quiet. She's on the phone. So I'm going to take this, put it into an 8-inch square.
Sorry, the computer, I have to backtrack because it's been a while.
Here we go. Here we go, yo. So even as is, if I wanted to take it out of the pot like this, that's good. That's really good. So let's scrape all that out of there. And I'll show you what it looks like.
Much in the front, just
okay, so what I'm going to do is just flatten it out there. Spread it nice and even inside this pan.
Yeah, it's big.
And it's going to look like that,
yeah.
Right? So now what I'm going to do is just put a little topping on there. I'm going to put a little bit of breadcrumb with some Funyuns, and I think I might do a little bit of mozzarella. Hold on. Okay, so I just realized I grabbed that big mixing bowl and didn't even use it because I just used the pot that it came in. So right now I have some breadcrumbs, and I'm going to just lightly coat the top of this with breadcrumbs because it just adds that breadcrumbs. So you have kind of like a breadcrumb thing to it. All right, so breadcrumbs are in. Now I'm going to take some mozzarella, and we are going to just dance some mozzarella across the top Ooh. And just let it skirt along the edges there and make it just so we have a nice little layer. We don't want to overdo it, but just a nice little layer of that. And I'm going to take some fried onion as a top, and I'm going to do the same thing as I did with the cheese. I'm just going to put a little bit going around it and on top of it, and gives it like a nice little extra something, and it gives it a little crisp. So that's what it looks like. All right, and now we're going to stick it in the toaster oven just enough time for the cheese to be completely melted. Once that's done, it's done. So that is a pretty freaking simple meal right there. It's good. It has multiple names. Tuna Noodle Casserole. I mean, anything with that many names has to be good. Otherwise, it would have less names, right? Six flags, more fun. That's the way it is. So let's get that finished. Hold on. All right, so finished product here. This is what we're looking at. I'll just move the phone. What am I doing? I'll just move the phone. I'm trying to make it all difficult. Check this out. Ooh, if Dora was here right now, she'd be like, yum, 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 delicioso. That right there. Ooh, we're going to taste it before I actually put it into any kind of bowl. Make sure it's all set. I know it's all set. I just like to eat it. I love tuna noodle casserole. Just tuna, noodle, and some casserole. So, that's it. Don't forget, if you're going to make something, you're going to need your own Pampered Chef scoop to get it out. This thing's dope. And that's it, man. That's it. Ooh, you hear that crispy? Did you hear that? That crispy top just crumbling. Pretty simple, guys. It's literally one pot to boil some noodles and peas in. And then you're just mixing in tuna and mayo, and then you can salt and pepper and add your toppings, whatever you want to do. If you got some Southwest sauce, if you like a little spicy, do that. Some sriracha, do that. Anything you want to do, you can make it your own. But the base is the base. It's just peas, noodles, and I've substituted asparagus before already, so there's literally no holds barred on what vegetables you want to put in there, even if any. If you don't like vegetables, well, then don't put any in. It's just super freaking simple. Oh, yeah, look at that steam come up. Super good. Speaking of super good, I'm going to take it in there and go eat some super good meal. I am Donnie B all day. Until next video.